Yo, what's good, everybody? It is your boy Golden Falls, Golden What Ifs, whatever you want to call me, and I'm back. This is part 3 of What If Deku had a spirit control Quirk, excuse me. And yeah, I'm back. I hope you guys enjoy the video. Sorry this video will come out a little bit later than normal. I just had some hard time getting around to it, but I'm finally around to it. And yeah, I don't got much else to say. I don't want to waste much more of your time. I want to get into where we left off. So let's get it. Izuku Midori and Katsuki Bakugo, for their practical exam for the final exam, are going to take on the one and only All Might. But how are they going to defeat him? Truly, how are they going to defeat him? Well, for starters, let's just say Bakugo doesn't really want to just run away. Bakugo doesn't want to just win and go on to the next. He wants to fight All Might. And Izuku, well, he believes that fighting All Might is a pretty damn stupid idea, because if he does fight him, and if they do fight him, it will probably end in a pretty horrific loss. But still, he's forced into actually fighting with Bakugo, actually transporting Bakugo, teleporting him to different places to land different explosions. But quickly, Izuku is realizing very, very fast that there is no way of actually defeating him. Like, there is zero chance they're going to defeat him, and he's kind of just trying to stall out some time. But Izuku would get a little bit annoyed. After about 3 minutes of going back and forth, trying to actually injure All Might at all, Izuku would realize that they're not making any headway, like, at all. So after that little bit of time, Izuku would just grab onto Bakugo and teleport them to the exit, as well, escaping from All Might is also a way for them to win. Everybody would be cheering them on because, well, it was still pretty impressive at what they were doing. They were keeping up with All Might. They weren't able to defeat him or anything, but Izuku was able to teleport around and do things like that, and everyone's pretty damn impressed. And All Might, well, basically tells them that they probably should have done that in the first place, that none of that was going to hurt him. And Izuku kind of shrugs his shoulders and says that Bakugo wanted to, give it his best shot, so that's what he did. In which Izuku does say that he could have tried to use his kind of spirit fission on him, but he also didn't want to hurt All Might massively. He didn't want to do anything too insane. But his teleportation is proved to be one of the strongest and most kind of lethal things that he's ever done and ever has done in the first place. And that's going to be even more true than anyone could possibly imagine when they actually head off to the forest training camp. After doing, whatever they got to do leading up to the forest training camp, they would get knocked off a mountain, of course, just like normal, leading to them fighting these ground-like creatures, or these earth-like creatures. And Izuku, well, all he's thinking about is how is he going to get stronger. And during this time, over the course of, we're talking, a couple days, Izuku would be working on his ability to heal, his ability to use spirit fission, teleport, and so much more. And all of it is heavily focused on those things. So he's able to train and get even better at those aspects very, very quickly. But the forest training camp, well, it's not going to be safe forever, because villains would eventually invade, and Izuku would be forced into a situation to try and help a little kid by the name of Koda, trying to save him from a giant, monstrous guy. And there's something that he's been working on, and something that he's actually been talking to many of the people at UA about throughout this time, and that's having a location where he could teleport villains or teleport villains into a place where there's going to be law enforcement or other heroes or people that are ready to capture the villain in general. And Izuku is thinking about that, but he kind of ignores Muscular, teleporting Kodo away to a safe distance, telling Aizawa about where Muscular is, telling him that he's up on that mountain. And basically Aizawa tells him to teleport every person that he can to a safe location. Teleport them all away and hope that they're safe and they're good. And Izuku's like, okay, if that's what you want. So he begins to teleport all of his classmates to a mutual location, saving a lot of them from actually being harmed in general. And this would force all the villains into a neutral location as well. And this would be definitely beneficial for the heroes and also the hero students that are currently there. Izuku telling Aizawa that they could really set up a place for him to send all these villains, but he just doesn't have a place or location specifically that is even ready. And he would even ask Aizawa about that thing that he asked about this location that, you know, that they could create that maybe would cancel quirks. And Aizawa would tell him that that's just not gonna work, not just yet. In which Izuku's kind of like, damn, like really? Like, you gotta be kidding me. Like, I thought that would be ready by now. How is it not? In which, of course, it's not. So Izuku is kind of on the back foot in terms of that idea. But with all the villains grouped up, with all the villains kind of right there, they're able to fend them off quite a bit. And this time around, nobody actually even gets kidnapped, forcing the villains to just leave in general. But as this is happening, the villains still have a place and a kind of an idea of a mission to kind of approach things in a certain way. Their approach and their want to take a certain approach is to basically kind of distract a ton of the heroes, as All For One actually takes the fight to All Might. But in doing this, this is not a good idea, and not an idea that would actually go their way, because All For One wouldn't be ready for an All Might or the All Might that they're going to be facing, because Izuku and all of the classmates would head back to UA a little bit early, and 3 or 4 days from now, that's when the All For One's plan will actually be revealed and would come to fruition. But Izuku, he's actually working with All Might, healing All Might, and actually reverting him back to his prime self, getting rid of the absolute destruction he had in his lungs and or his chest, and he's getting rid of it entirely. And now he's basically in tip-top shape, and he hasn't even gotten rid of One For All in the first place. He would then basically talk to Izuku about taking on One For All once again, but Izuku would tell him, with Prime All Might back, he doesn't believe that it's just necessary, at least not yet, and there might still be someone better than him to take on the Quirk. But Izuku tells him that he will be ready for anything now, but he shouldn't overdo it, not yet, because you never know what's to come, and you never know when a true final battle is going to happen. And he tells him that take it easy, do your normal kind of things, you know, don't go too overboard with it, and we'll see what happens. In which Izuku is excited to see Prime All Might, but not in the way that he was eventually going to see him, because Prime All Might in 4 days time would be taking on All For One, and he takes on All For One, and everybody watches from their homes, on the TVs, and so on and so forth, watching Prime All Might take on All For One. But with other villains arriving like Shigaraki, Kurogiri, well, it makes the fight a lot more difficult. Not that Prime All Might can't fend them all off, but he can't finish the fight with All For One quick enough because of these people that are there. But as Izuku is watching this, Izuku would immediately teleport a ton of other heroes, something that he should have done at the USJ, but, you know, Izuku is a little dumb up there sometimes. But Izuku teleports a ton of the heroes to basically lay siege on these other villains. All For One not being their main priority, but Shigaraki and every other villain there is their main priority. Izuku would begin to kind of teleport around, helping out anybody who possibly needs help, obviously not fighting in the actual fights, but helping out where he can. And Aizawa and many of the other heroes that are of high caliber would take down the entirety of the League of Villains, capturing them all. And with Prime All Might on All For One is unable to even do a single thing, unable to keep up, and unable to actually stop All Might and the rest of them from stopping the entirety of the League of Villains. As the League of Villains are completely captured and completely just stopped entirely, this would lead them to, for the most part, setting up for whatever's to come next in UA. And Izuku himself, he's excited to see what's next, because what's next is actually working on getting your provisional hero license exam, but also getting to that next point in your journey with a work study. And work studies are going to be massively important, something that Izuku feels will take him to the very next level. But first off, they actually start doing a bit of training for their kind of super moves and stuff like that. And Izuku, well, he's proven to do so many different things so extremely well. And the fact is, he's more than prepared for this provisional hero license exam, especially when it starts with something very simple like tagging these people's lights to get on to the next round. Now, everyone initially, they know what the powers of Class 1A has. And they know that Class 1A can do this or do that. You know, your Kosuke Bakugos, your Todorokis, your Kirishimas, and stuff like that. They know about everyone. But here's the thing. Just because you know about them doesn't mean you're prepared for them. Because when Izuku begins to teleport around, immediately tagging out and basically getting more points and or kind of going on to the next round, that no one was ready for Izuku to be that quick and that agile. Wasn't ready for Izuku to be in so much control. And that's exactly what he was in, complete and utter control. And Izuku was just easily going on to the next round, and the next round would involve an actual kind of scenario, a rescue scenario, something they really haven't done that much of. But in all honesty, Izuku might be one of the best rescue type heroes ever in existence. His ability to heal, his ability to teleport, his ability to literally weaken opponents massively with spirit fission. Izuku can do it all. So when they're basically scouting, the very first thing that happens after Class 1A would pass on to the next exam, or the next part of the exam, Izuku would scout with his teleportation, going from place to place, hearing this or that, learning about different places, and mapping out the entire area. And then even setting up the area around and healing, and quote-unquote healing people that need healing, in which Izuku makes it very clear that if these people were actually injured, which technically they're not, it's all makeup and this and that, he would be able to heal them. And this is helpful though when one of the people from a different high school actually tries to get into a bit of a scuffle with incoming villains and Gang Orca. When he thinks that he can do whatever he can, you know, he can stop them all, he tries with his insane powers, but Gang Orca shuts it down almost instantaneously, absolutely knocking the guy out. But Izuku would teleport in, get him out of there, and heal him up. And this would obviously give him massive points toward passing this exam. But Izuku would go right back in, landing a punch to Gang Orca and then teleporting out. Gang Orca confused, saying that the kid, I mean, you're gonna have to hit a lot harder than that. But Gang Orca slowly but surely can feel himself getting slightly weaker and slightly slower as Izuku would teleport to the other villains, punching and kicking and knocking the rest of those the little villains out, the ones that are more henchmen like. And he would watch as Inasa and Todoroki would conflict with each other with their quirks clashing and not actually working properly, in which Izuku would yell at them, telling them to stop being so stupid, that if they just combine their powers together and not, mess up so heavily, they would be able to take down Gang Orca with relative ease. Gang Orca would continue barreling forward, being that the spirit fission isn't working, extremely quickly because Izuku landed a single punch, and he's not mainly focusing on sapping Gang Orca's strength because he doesn't want to hurt him massively. Izuku would kind of continue trying to distract Gang Orca, while Inasa and Todoroki would finally have their combo work flawlessly and finally have something go their way, in which it would work perfectly to see them work together, and Gang Orca would be defeated with the timer or the alarms bound to go off, with the entire exam about to be finished. And this would lead to Izuku getting his provisional hero license exam, and pretty easily at that, getting one of the highest scores you could possibly get. And let's just say this would boost his kind of his morale, and also boost everybody's look on what Izuku truly can do, because he's not just a run-of-the-mill powerful hero. No, he can do everything. He can support, he can help people out, he can rescue, he can do so many different things. And really, the teleportation powers alone, I mean, these are ridiculous. And his kind of calm, relaxing demeanor, it's totally different than anything anyone's ever worked with. So a lot of work studies are going to want to work with someone like Izuku. And, well, even some of the best out there start basically piling in, wanting him to work with them ASAP. And one of them, well, we'll soon find out who it's about or who it is, because immediately after this is all said and done, about a day after, they would get a bit of a visit from the big three: Nejire, Tamaki, and Mirio. They would all three talk about, this or that, about talking about the work studies and stuff. But once everybody begins to fight Mirio as a way of kind of understanding what these work studies could truly make you into, an absolute beast, Izuku would fight alongside his teammates and his classmates, teleporting around, helping others, and trying to fight Mirio. But the fight itself, I mean, it's a bit of a stalemate. Mirio can't really hit Izuku, but Izuku can't really hit Mirio either. So they're kind of going back and forth, and eventually it's called a bit of a draw, even though none of them really have landed much of a blow. And frankly, it's not really a draw when all of your classmates were defeated, and the only one that wasn't was you, because you just couldn't get hit. Now, this would lead Mirio into basically telling him that Sir Night-Eye wants him to join his agency. No kind of all this testing, none of this crazy stuff. No, he wants him to join his agency because he believes Izuku is the next best hero coming very soon. I mean, when he's done with UA High School, he's easily going to be a top hero because of how much he can get done, how much he can do, and how effective he can be at the field of the play. But also how kind of his whole demeanor, everybody would feel so kind of confident and would basically feel very safe around him. At the end of the day, you want somebody like that. All Might has that effect on people. When he's around people, people feel safe, people feel calm, people feel relaxed, even though they really love All Might. But when you have someone who is maybe not as strong, maybe not as calm, maybe not as this big person, you don't feel as safe. But Izuku definitely exudes that calmness, and everybody would hear him, everybody who would be healed by him, and everybody who would basically be around him would definitely be on the kind of idea of, yeah, this guy is going to keep us safe, and this guy is going to be a good hero to watch out for us. Which that's exactly what Izuku is going to do. And he starts working with Sir Night-Eye. They do a little bit of training here and there. He works with Mirio in terms of training. But they do talk about one person, and that's Overhaul, in which Izuku tells him that if he finds Overhaul, he finds these people, he could genuinely just teleport him into a neutral zone that can get rid of his powers or do this or do that. And Sir Night-Eye initially is like, we probably don't want to try and fight and do this or do that. But Mirio tells him that he's seen his teleportation in action. The kid can do it without even thinking about it. And the kid can, if they were to somehow run into Overhaul, he can get him to a location where everybody would be ready to basically stop him. And which Overhaul, or which Sir Night-Eye would nod his head and think, you know what? You're right. Let's get you a place, and we know we've been working on something like this for a while, but he's going to get him a button to press to basically sound the alarms to tell him that if he's going to bring villains or bring a villain to that location. Izuku, after a couple days of working on this, would actually get that button or that alarm or that kind of like app you would get on your phone, and he would be able to press it and tell everybody that they have villain incoming, in which would be perfect, especially perfect because when on a patrol with Mirio Togata, they would run into Overhaul. But it's not just Overhaul. It's Overhaul and a little girl by the name of Eri. This is insane. The idea of finding Overhaul was just outlandish. But now that he's standing in front of him and he's not even ready for what's to come, well, Izuku knows that this will change everything. Overhaul would see him, and initially he wouldn't even think about the kid. I mean, he's seen him before in terms of like maybe the UA Sports Festival or this or that, but he doesn't think about him. He's like, oh, you know how kids are. Kids, they always run away and blah, blah, blah. And he's basically holding Eri. Izuku is holding Eri, and Eri's obviously freaking out and terrified. And Izuku's thinking all he needs to do is teleport to Overhaul and teleport right to that location, in which Mirio would kind of tap Izuku on the leg, tapping the app for him and telling him that, hey, it's all good. Like, we understand. I mean, even this guy right here, he's a little outlandish too. He runs off and does his own thing sometimes, in which Overhaul would fake laugh, saying, oh yeah, well, newbie heroes, they get really excited. In which Izuku says, yeah, I have a tendency of getting a little too excited. So, we get it. We understand it. In which they're basically just stalling for time at this point, allowing the heroes to hear the sirens and get set up. They don't want to just teleport in without them being ready. It could really backfire. But after about a minute of kind of stalling, they would then begin to actually eventually let Eri go. Like, oh yeah, I'm gonna let her go, whatever. And Izuku walks Eri over to Overhaul, not teleporting next to him, and he apologizes for the inconvenience, and he understands that they probably are very busy. In which Izuku helps him up and goes to tap him on the shoulder. As he taps him on the shoulder, Izuku would immediately be teleporting all of them instantaneously to that location, grabbing Eri and then teleporting her away, as Overhaul is stuck in a location where his quirk is legitimately getting canceled and he is unable to actually utilize it. Luckily, they were able to get a hold of Aizawa pretty damn quickly, so when Aizawa would arrive, cancel the quirk of Overhaul, and on top of that, would cuff Overhaul with quirk canceling cuffs as well, it would be over and done with. Overhaul captured in one foul swoop would be something that nobody would have ever expected in their lifetime, especially being that he is the leader of the Shia Hazaikai. But this would lead to them eventually invading the base of Overhaul, which is far easier this time around, especially because Overhaul is, for one, not there, and everybody in that base is not expecting them to invade, like, at all. And Izuku would help out where he can, helping everyone, get in and out of the base, where he would teleport everybody to different locations, helping them here and there, and it's a very easy invasion of the Overhaul base. And they would easily defeat every single person within there, and it seems like the Shia Hazaikai, Overhaul, and many of these other villains are well done and dealt with. And Izuku is allowed to kind of continue his journey through UA. As he continues his journey through UA, they do a bit of training with class 1B, in which they do have a bit of a 5v5-esque training session, which Izuku has no problem just teleporting around and teleporting the classmates into the holding cells, which he would kind of find this to be a low light in terms of his hero journey, because he likes working with Overhaul, or Sir Night-Eye, excuse me. I've been saying his name too much, so now I'm kind of mixed up. But he does love working with Sir Night-Eye and Mirio, and that's where most of his attention goes to, and he continues to work with them throughout this time, learning, sculpting his journey as a hero. But eventually they would come across something that was a little bit scary in a way, a little bit worrying, and that's this creature, a monster, one monster that, well, might be as big as a mountain. This thing is Gigantomachia, but it seems dormant, unable to move, not doing a single thing. With his master, All For One, not there, it seems like Gigantomachia doesn't have a thing to do. So they're able to guide him to a certain location and get him out of that location so that they can keep him under wraps and keep him completely under control. And it seems like the more and more that happens, the more and more Izuku is involved in these things, he continues to make life easier for every single hero. And he's not even a hero just yet, not in your traditional sense. And of course, this is perfect. I mean, Izuku is getting an insane reputation with how good of a hero he can and will be, and Izuku's path to greatness continues forward. But the thing is, there's one more thing that can make Izuku that much greater: becoming the successor of All Might, in which Izuku believes that he doesn't need to carry the power of All Might, but All Might tells him that one day All Might will want to retire. He'll want to stop and go on and live a normal life. And Izuku's journey is just beginning, and it's time for him to become the hero that everybody knows he can be. And Izuku, he nods his head, thinking that maybe just maybe, this is the time to do it. And Izuku agrees to take on One for All, but that comes with a lot of different kind of possibilities and also problems. And Izuku would realize very quickly that having the extra quirk is affecting him quite a bit. But with his quirk, with his spirit control quirk, it seems that the more he's getting used to One for All, the more his body is becoming acclimated to it, and his spirit control powers are allowing him to actually kind of control One for All way better than he can even imagine. It's as if the power itself doesn't seem so daunting anymore with his quirk, as if his quirk was almost perfect to actually take on One for All itself. Izuku believes that this is kind of crazy to even think about, but also amazing. I mean, as he goes throughout the years, as a second, third year to even graduating, Izuku continues his excellence and continues the path of being one of the best heroes, and soon he would be basically competing with some of the finest future heroes to ever exist, from Katsuki Bakugo, his classmate, Todoroki, one of his classmates, to even Mirio Togata, one of the people he worked alongside when he was a third year and Izuku was a first year. And he continues to work with and help and also kind of take on so many different challenges throughout his entire life. His entire life of becoming the greatest hero the world has ever seen. Izuku would continue the kind of legacy of All Might, and would even have a new layer to his powers that many others would compare All Might to, in which All Might just didn't have in the first place. His ability to heal, his ability to teleport, his ability to support and rescue people the way All Might would never have been able to, because of the powers that Izuku has within him. Izuku would continue his journey as a hero, continue the climb to being the greatest, but of course, that is where we have to end this story. The story of Izuku Midoriya and the story of a hero named Deku. But if you enjoyed, show some love to the video. Initially, I was actually going to make this just part 3 and then kind of have a part 4, but I decided, hey, this is probably a good place for a finale. There's a lot of stuff that I could get through because of certain powers that Izuku would actually have, so I decided to just do it that way. I feel like it still came out pretty good. Hope you guys enjoyed the video nonetheless though, and make sure to leave a like, leave a sub, leave a comment down below, all that good stuff, especially with what you want to see next. Don't worry, I will be finishing the Blue Lock What If. I just have to figure out how I would like to finish the series off, but that will probably be the next thing I finish in terms of the series. But with that said, hope you guys enjoyed the video, and I hope all y'all have an amazing day. Later.